Next question. You have 2 minutes for this one. What are strong characteristics you'd like to see in the next superintendent?
I think that we need somebody who has extensive classroom experience. We need somebody who's been a boots-on-the-ground teacher and also somebody who has been a building administrator. I've spoken to a series of building administrators who ask me over and over again, whatever you do, make sure the person has building administration experience, and I take that very seriously. So I think those are sort of 2 key components. Beyond that, if the person has other types of experience, business experience, or some other sort of non-educational experience, I'd be happy to look at that person too, but I think the person has to be an educator first and foremost. I think secondly, the person has to be a listener and somebody who brings people together. I don't think, I made this point very seriously, and I made it over and over again in my meeting with the panel that interviewed me for the SEA endorsement, and I don't think that I got 81% of the teachers voting in my favor. The biggest percentage of all the candidates. I think it was because of what I said about the superintendent. We need somebody who's going to listen to parents, listen to community members, listen to our teachers, listen to our administrators, and get in the schools and see what's going on. I think those are absolutely critical characteristics. Yes, they should be a financial manager, but the truth is they can have people reporting to them that are experts in finance. But I think they need to have been a teacher, have been an administrator, and have open ears and be big listeners and collaborators. Thank you.
I have no litmus test for the superintendent, although I would like to see him after her to have been a superintendent or at least an assistant superintendent, and definitely, has been a teacher and a principal at a school. I would also like to see a teacher that has a track record in improving achievement. Hopefully, the superintendent will be someone who wants to set high goals for himself. I like to see goals set like 80%, 90% of our students will be reading at grade level at the end of the 3rd year. I would hope that he would then challenge the principals and the teachers at the various schools to meet those goals, and also then provide the resources and the programs to achieve that. I'd also like to see a superintendent who believes in educating the board. So many of our boards in Stanford, I believe, are not educated on the material or the issues that are being discussed. So if you can build trust with the board and obviously with the parents and the principals, that would be very helpful. And someone definitely who maintains a channel of communication with all, the parents, teachers, the community. That would be an important attribute as well.
So there are a couple of things that I'm really looking for. One is that I'm looking for someone that has management experience in a district that has helped to close the achievement gap, so that we have proof that this reformer knows both what the problem is and what possible solutions are. I'm looking for someone with strong curriculum skills. I read an interesting article last weekend about how the superintendents of old were managers. They were people who ran budgets and ran transportation systems, but they didn't have real strength in curriculum. And that is no longer the case. It's changing, but still, according to this article, that they're a relatively small percentage. So I'm really looking for a superintendent that is strong in curriculum and curriculum reform. I'm looking for someone who is collaborative, that is a good communicator, that has those people skills. Although I will say, if I have to choose between someone who builds consensus and someone who shows shows strength and leadership, that in fact I will go for strength and leadership, because sometimes what needs to be done is the right thing, even in the face of some discomfort, because change is challenging. Change creates fear. Change isn't always easy. It doesn't always work immediately, and so I know that what I'm looking for is somebody who exhibits that kind of strength and personal conviction. And I look forward to the process that's going to begin in earnest after the first of the year.
I'd like to see a superintendent at least have a PhD or be a doctor in education. But more than that, if I had an opportunity, to allow me to have an opportunity to sit across the table from him or her at an interview, I would ask them, what is your 2-year plan? You have 2 years. What's your plan to fix this place? You've got a lot of problems. What are you going to do? Explain. And I want to hear it. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And I want to see it executed. I'm going to, in my intention, try to keep this superintendent on a short leash. I want to talk to him, maybe on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis. Because I want to know what's going on all the time. I need improvement, results. That's all I'm about. Results, action. Get it done. Because otherwise you're fired. I'm not into consensus building. I don't want to see somebody, I don't want some mean, but he's not popular. I don't care. So he's getting the job done. You can stay. Otherwise, you can go. But the bottom line is I need results.
I don't disagree with most of what I've heard. I would add one thing, though. I think that it would be very helpful if the superintendent lived in Stanford. I think with Dr. Starr it was a distraction because he didn't. I also think that by living in Stanford, it enables a person to be more involved and invested in the community. It also allows for extra time that the superintendent needs, I believe, needs to spend with business leaders in the community, with service organizations. The superintendent is the front line. He represents the district. And the more places that the superintendent, whether it's he or she, hopefully we'll have a diverse pool and we'll be able to choose the best qualified. But I think that living in Stanford would definitely be a plus.
I feel one of the first things is someone that can come in and earn the respect, the trust, and the loyalty of our school staff. That was missing before. The teachers are not upset. I feel the teachers are not upset about what is actually going on, the curriculum and the skills and everything that they're teaching. But I think what was missing is the way that was accomplished. So one of the first things, it's got to be somebody that can earn that respect and trust with the staff. It needs to be somebody that knows the Connecticut core standards and all of the curriculum items. And probably the most important thing that I feel right now is because of what has started in the Stanford Public Schools, I think it has to be someone who already sees the vision and the plan that has already been started. It's on a foundation basis, and I think that person has to be agreeable to wanting to continue that plan and that vision, and somebody who also knows how to do that. I think that's going to be a difficult task because usually they come in with their own ideas. But this is very important, I think, in Stanford right now.
Okay, one last question and then we're going to wrap it up. How do you see the appointment of Stephen Pryor as the new Commissioner of Education affecting the direction of education for Connecticut and more specifically for Stanford?
Well, he was a unique choice. And I think he's going to do well. I think we have to look outside the box, which I think he's going to do. He's going to be looking at probably more charter schools and incentive pay for teachers, longer school days, longer school years. So I believe nothing is going to be off the table. If he had more educational experience, I think that would have been even a bigger plus. But he does seem to be a hard worker, and he is, I think, taking the right steps so far. So I hope the best, and I think he could benefit Stanford. I believe in the public school system, but I believe that our students have to be better prepared. We can't have fifth graders, 50% of them can't read. And I'm very concerned about our current high school students as well. And, there is, an inner city Chicago charter school, and it's an all-male charter school. And, what happened in the school is, when they entered this school 4 years ago, just 4% of the seniors were reading at grade level. 4%. All 107 of these students graduated and went on to college. This is the kind of change that I think we need. I'm not looking for small changes, 5 or 10. I'm looking for really drastic changes in the achievement for all of our students, and particularly our lower performing students. And so I think that Governor Moy made a good decision, but obviously, we don't know yet.
I think when the governor appointed him, he was looking to shake up the state Department of Education, and I think he's probably done that. He's one of the founders of Amistad, which is a really fabulous charter school in New Haven that takes kids from low-income neighborhoods and gives them the kind of experiential education that we all wish that our children had. I'm not opposed to charter schools. I work for one. I think that the model of school choice is a fabulous option for parents and for students. But I am opposed to the concept of money following the child. If in fact we create something that pits a charter school dollars against public school dollars, the loser is going to be the public school. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a charter school that comes in and pulls 300 kids, it's an elementary charter. It pulls 300 kids from Stanford Public Schools into the charter, and the money follows the child, which in our case is about $16,000 per student is what it averages out in our current budget. None of those kids conceivably could come from the same classroom. They would come from different schools, they would come from different grades, they would come from different classes, and we would not be able to realize that saving on the public school side. We wouldn't be able to close a classroom, we wouldn't be able to release a teacher, we wouldn't be able to consider reducing the number of buildings that we manage, and yet we have all of that money flowing into the charter school. So I'm waiting to see what Mr. Breyer does in regards to that, and I think the jury is still out. But I am hopeful that he will see the error of his ways, if in fact that's the direction he's going. I'm also very interested in his stand on the Connecticut Coalition for Justice and Education funding, which is the suit that we brought against the state for inadequate funding around the education cost sharing formula.
I'll be brief. That is impressive. I'm very optimistic. But me being who I am, I want to see results. So, when I see the action, I see results, I'll let you know. Thank you.
It's way too early for me to form an opinion. I don't know enough about the gentleman. I do know that he comes from a business background, even though he was involved early on in what is now the charter school movement. he has a business background. He was never a superintendent. And so I'm hoping that the Board of Education here will have an opportunity to sit down with him and discuss some of his vision and where he thinks the state of Connecticut should go. But I don't want to put any of my preconceived notions that I might have onto him because I just don't know. There's not enough evidence yet to make a determination, not from my point of view.
I also feel the same way. I think it's too early to make a decision. You know, you can come in with all kinds of credentials. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be very good at the job. One of the things I'm very kind of strong about is I believe in the public school education. I think I got a good education in Stanford, and I probably didn't know that as I was going through the schools, but I realized that as I was getting older and older, some of those things came back to me, and I realized that Stanford was able to give me a lot of things. I think it's important to keep the public school image and for all of the children to be educated and learning together, because that's what we need to build our community. And once we start dividing and separating, then we kind of are destroying our community. And I think right now, Stanford needs to pull together in our community.
We know a lot about Commissioner Pryor's background, but we really don't know what he's going to do here in Connecticut yet. We just don't know, and so it's really impossible to make a judgment about what he's going to do in a new role. It's a completely new role from business or charter schools. He's the state commissioner of education, so we really don't know much about him. The jury's out. I'm a big supporter of the governor. I think the governor usually exercises phenomenal judgment in picking people to work for him. And if he doesn't do the job, the governor will accept his resignation, I think, willingly. But where we have an opportunity with having Dan Malloy as our governor and having George Jepson as the Attorney General and the other Stanford people up there at the delegation is to do something about the CCS. I know I've brought it up 3 times, but you are talking about a dramatic impact. Remember I talked about that bad winter we have every year fighting about the budget. If we could just get our fair share from the state, we wouldn't have a fight every winter. We wouldn't have an argument about taxes. We might even have our taxes go down. I know Ben Barnes did that analysis when he was here, talking about if we got a sliver of what we deserve. So I'm hopeful that he'll shine a light on the communities that are getting absolutely robbed by the CCS formula. Because if everybody said the budget is bitter, it's brutal, giving us our fair share, not 10% of what Scotland gets, but our fair share, you'll see big changes in Stanford.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to let the candidates have an opportunity to give their final statements, and we thank everybody for coming here tonight. And so we're going to start off with Ms. Murphy and then end with Mr. Klein.
Thank you. I believe my skill sets will add remarkably to the Board of Ed. I am an attorney and I am an actuary. And I understand the budget issues and I understand the personnel issues. I'm familiar as well as with the union contracts and what we could possibly achieve. I think the savings that we need in the schools and the city side are going to come in the benefits area. I am also someone who can look at programs and evaluate the programs, look at the programs or the policy decisions we have to make, with the restrictions that are on those, from the judicial decisions or the courts, or from state regulations or federal laws. And so I would hope, and I think out of the box. I'm not afraid to set high goals, and I believe in setting very high goals. I like the goals that were set at intercity school in Chicago. 4% of the children couldn't read when they entered high school, and we all graduated and went on to college. Those are the goals that we need here in Stanford, and I hope the new superintendent sees it the same way. We are looking for significant improvement in all grades for our children in Stanford. And I hope on November 8th that you will consider me and hopefully for your Board of Ed. Thank you.
First, I want to thank everyone for coming out on this sort of raw night, and I'm freezing to death. Is anyone else freezing to death? So Andy just put his hood up. Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. You know, it's been the most amazing 3.5 years, or almost 4 years, that I've had the privilege of serving these 15,500 students. I have learned a lot. There is a lot more to learn. I have grown a lot. There's a lot more growing to do. I'm really excited at the prospect of being able to work with the board on selecting our next superintendent who will lead us through the continued transformation. I worked within various communities from my previous employer to my current employer, and I hear voices from all sides of the street about the need for our education system to continue to move in the direction that it's moving. And I look forward to being someone who represents those voices, who is concerned about the quality of education for all kids. But what I really want to say is that, you know, local elections are, you know, they say sort of by invitation. I just ask you to, and I know you will, and I see stickers, so I know you will. I just ask you to not only to get out to vote, to make your voice heard, but to invite your friends and neighbors to vote as well. Because it is in this messy democratic process that we really choose representative government. So I thank you very much for coming out tonight, and I look forward to seeing you at the next board meeting. Thanks so much.
Thank you everyone for giving me your time tonight, listening to what I have to say. In this long amount of time, you have a flavor of who I am and what I'm about, and I hope you give me that vote, and I'll work very hard for you. And always know that everything I do is always in the best interest of the student.
Thank you again to Parent-Teacher Council and the NAACP and the Yerwood Center for hosting. I hope that what you've heard this evening will lead you to go to the polls on November 8th and vote for my re-election. It's been a very challenging 3 years. What you believe to be the case when you're a candidate is nothing like what it actually is when you're a board member. You are responsible for moving a district of 15,500 children to greater heights through the work that the superintendent does. The superintendent is the only employee of the board, and our major responsibility is making sure that the goals that the Board of Education sets for the superintendent are the goals that are met. And it is not an easy job, as other board members who are here tonight can attest to. I have no personal agenda, and the only special interest group that I represent is the children in the Stanford Public Schools. So I hope that you'll consider voting for me on November 8th.
I've spent 38 years in the classroom with my time, my money, my energy to the children of Stanford. That was always my focus, that was always my goal, and since I started this campaign, it has never changed. It is always focused on the children. I consider myself to be kind of a risk taker. I'm not afraid to take an educationally sound risk. So I've tried new things in my classroom. I've also earned the trust and the respect of my colleagues. That's not always easy when you're a physical education instructor, but They know that I will always tap into the people that I realize have a particular skill, and I always listen to the staff when I was trying to do new things. So I hope that that could bring a good thing to the board, to be open-minded and willing to work together as a group.
Thanks again to everybody who came out on a brutal night, and to the PT Council and NAACP Yerwood Center for hosting us. This is an important election year. We have the Board of Finance, the Board of Education, constables, and some of the Board of Representatives up for re-election. Your local election affects what you do every single day. It affects the people you interact with around town, what your kids do every day when they go to school. So it is very important to participate, and I'm glad people are out here participating. A couple of quick points again. I've lived here my whole life. My 2 children have gone to public school here in Stamford from the beginning. One goes to West Hill, one goes to Clunan. I'm the only person running who has kids currently in the public schools. I think that gives me a unique perspective. Also, if some of the things that I've written and said about my views on education aren't sound or aren't in the mainstream, why did 81% of Stanford's teachers vote to endorse me? That's more than all the candidates, Board of Finance, Board of Education. 81% of Stanford's teachers support my campaign, and I'm proud of that. I don't hide from that. I think that what I can bring to the board is some common sense and the perspective of a parent. And what I want to see us focus on is spending money on things that matter, like teachers and technology and our kids, not on that calendar and this fancy stuff that I get frustrated when I get in the mail, when there's no school supplies in the classroom, but you get a fancy brochure from the central office that somebody paid for. So I think I can bring the parent perspective and do right by all the kids, and ask for your support. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you to all our candidates for coming out tonight. There's some refreshments here. I think the candidates might stay around for a couple minutes. If anyone has any questions, if you'd like to approach them, feel free to. There's some palm cards out on the table over here, and thank you for coming.